Imagine this. It's 11 p.m. and you're staring at your laptop screen. You promised yourself you'd finish that report, start that side hustle, or finally hit the gym earlier today. But instead, you scrolled. You checked messages, you watched just one more video, and now, you're sitting there, not only exhausted, but crushed by that sinking, familiar guilt. It's the same story as yesterday, and the day before. The loop of procrastination, the cycle you swore you'd break. Tell me honestly, how many times has this happened to you? See? Here's the real pain. Procrastination is not about laziness. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're not doomed. You're stuck in a cycle, and the cycle has rules. There's a formula to why you delay, and there's a formula to breaking free. And once you see it, once you finally understand why discipline feels impossible, everything changes. In this video, I'm going to show you how discipline and delay are two sides of the same coin, how procrastination feeds itself, and most importantly, the formula to break out of it. By the end, you won't just feel inspired, you'll have a clear, practical path to finally take control of your time, your focus, and your life. And before we dive in, let me ask you for something simple. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Because here, we don't talk fluff, we break cycles, we build lives. And you're going to want to be here for what's coming next. Alright, let's get into it. The first step to escaping procrastination is understanding the invisible enemy you're fighting. Most people think procrastination is just putting things off. Wrong. Procrastination is an identity trap, and it's far more dangerous than you realize. You think procrastination is just about being lazy, right? You tell yourself, I'll do it later, or I just don't feel like it right now. But that's a lie you whisper to yourself because the truth is too painful. Procrastination is not about laziness, it's about identity. And until you see that, you'll keep playing the same game, over and over, with the same result: guilt, self-hate, and wasted potential. Think about it. Every time you delay something, every time you push a task to tomorrow, you're not just postponing action, you're reinforcing a story about yourself. A story that says, I'm the kind of person who doesn't follow through. I'm the kind of person who can't trust myself. I'm the kind of person who cracks under pressure. And here's the scary part. Your brain listens. Every skipped workout, every unfinished project, every time you chose scrolling over creating, your identity quietly shifts. Until one day, you wake up and realize you've built the identity of a procrastinator. That's why it feels so heavy. That's why you're stuck. It's not about the task in front of you, it's about the version of you you've become. And if you're honest, you know this isn't just about missing deadlines. It's about the life you're building, or not building. Let me tell you a quick story. Years ago, I met a guy, we will call him Daniel. Brilliant mind. Ideas pouring out of him like water. He wanted to start a business. He wanted to write a book. He wanted to get in shape. You know what his problem was? He was always about to. Always just getting ready. He had outlines, sketches, notes, plans. His laptop was full of half-finished beginnings, but nothing ever crossed the finish line. He was always telling people, I'm working on something big. Just wait. Years went by. And guess what? Everyone stopped waiting. His friends stopped asking. The world moved on. And Daniel, he was still about to. Why? Because his identity became tied to being the guy who almost does things. His brain rewired itself to find safety in planning, in dreaming, in delaying, because finishing meant exposure. Finishing meant judgment. Finishing meant facing the terrifying question, what if I'm not good enough? Now tell me, how different is Daniel's story from yours? Be honest. How many half-finished projects are sitting in your laptop right now? How many promises to yourself have you quietly buried? How many times have you said, tomorrow I'll start? And what has that done to your self-image? Here's the paradox. The more you procrastinate, the harder it is to stop. Because each delay doesn't just waste time, it steals your belief in yourself. And when you no longer trust yourself, discipline becomes impossible. Think about it. How can you build discipline when the voice in your head says, you fail every other time? Why would this time be any different? That's the invisible enemy. So here's the truth you need to burn into your mind. Procrastination is not a behavior problem, it's an identity problem. And the first step to breaking it is brutally simple. Stop lying to yourself. What do I mean? When you say I'll do it later, you know you won't. You know later means never. So the more you repeat that lie, the more you fracture your relationship with yourself. Imagine if a friend lied to you as often as you lie to yourself about your goals. Would you still trust them? Would you still believe a single promise they made? Of course not. So why would you trust yourself when you've built a track record of breaking every deal you made with your future? Here's the practical move. Shrink the promise. If you can't keep a big promise to yourself right now, start with a microscopic one. Don't tell yourself you're going to write a book today. Tell yourself you're going to write one sentence. Don't say you will run 5 miles. Promise to put on your shoes. Why? Because the goal isn't the sentence or the shoes. The goal is rebuilding trust with yourself. The goal is proving through action, not words that you are someone who follows through. Let me ask you this. What if you measured your day not by how much you achieved, but by how many promises you kept to yourself? Imagine if your self-worth came not from results you can't fully control, but from the one thing you can. Keeping your word to yourself. That would flip the whole game. Now, I'm not saying lower your standards forever. I'm saying build momentum, because identity is built the same way it was broken. Repetition. Every time you keep a small promise, you create a new story. I'm the kind of person who does what I say. And when that story gets strong enough, procrastination has nowhere to hide. Let me give you another example. A woman I coached, let's call her Sarah, had been stuck for years. She wanted to start posting online, sharing her knowledge, building an audience. But she always said, I'm not ready. I don't know enough yet. I'll start when I have more time. Classic delay. So I told her, forget posting every day. Forget building an audience. Your only job this week is to record one unpolished, messy, private video for yourself. Don't post it. Just record. She resisted at first. It felt too small, but she did it. And something clicked. The next week, she recorded 2. By the end of the month, she was posting publicly. 6 months later, she had a following. The lesson? She stopped trying to win the entire war in one day and focused on winning a single skirmish. That was enough to rewrite her identity from I procrastinate to I show up. So here's the practical question for you. What's the smallest promise you can keep to yourself today? Not tomorrow, today. Because that tiny win is the first crack in the armor of procrastination. But I know what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, that sounds nice, but what about when I just don't feel motivated? What about when I sit there staring at the task, paralyzed? That's where people get it wrong. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right time. But let me break this to you. Motivation is a scam. If you wait to feel like it, you'll wait forever. Here's the real formula. Action first, motivation second. Not the other way around. Because motivation is not a prerequisite for action, it's a result of action. You know this. The hardest part of working out is putting on your shoes. The hardest part of writing is opening the document. But once you start, momentum kicks in. That's the hack. So stop asking yourself, do I feel like doing this? And start asking, can I do just 2 minutes? 2 minutes of action is the antidote to infinite delay. Now, let's pause. Take a breath. I want you to reflect. How many lies have you told yourself about later? How much trust have you lost in yourself because of procrastination? And how different would your life look if you rebuilt that trust one small promise at a time? That's the first step in breaking the cycle, but it's only the beginning. Because even if you start keeping promises to yourself, there's a hidden trap that can pull you back into procrastination. And that trap is disguised as comfort. So let's talk about comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of ambition. Comfort is the soft couch that keeps you scrolling when you swore you'd be working. Comfort is the warm blanket of excuses you wrap yourself in when you say, I'll start tomorrow. And the cruelest part? Comfort feels good in the moment. It rewards you instantly. That's why it wins, again and again, over discipline, which often feels like pain before it feels like progress. Let's be brutally honest. Procrastination isn't random. It's strategic. Your brain delays not because it hates you, but because it's wired to protect you. From what? From discomfort. Your brain doesn't care about your long-term goals. It doesn't care about the book you want to write, the business you want to build, the body you want to sculpt. It cares about right now. And right now, discipline feels uncomfortable. Right now, delay feels safe. That's the trap. Your brain is running outdated survival software. It thinks the discomfort of writing, studying, creating, exercising is a threat. So it pushes you back to safety Netflix, food, endless scrolling, and you obey, because it feels so good in the moment. But here's the cost. Every time you choose comfort now, you pay with regret later. And regret, unlike discipline, doesn't fade. Let me give you a story. Years ago, there was a man named Robert. He had a stable job, a decent salary, and a dream to start his own company. He knew he had the skills. He knew he had the vision. But every evening, after work, he told himself he was too tired. He'd sit down, grab a snack, watch a show, promise himself he'd start tomorrow. Tomorrow became months. Months became years. 10 years later, Robert looked back and realized he'd traded a decade of his life for comfort. He was safe, but he wasn't alive. That's the thing about comfort. It doesn't scream at you. It doesn't attack. It seduces you quietly. It whispers, "Rest a little longer. You deserve it." And of course you do deserve rest. But rest is not the same as avoidance. Comfort disguised as rest is procrastination's greatest weapon. So how do you break free? You flip the script on comfort. You stop waiting for discipline to feel easy, and you accept that discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. The question isn't, how do I avoid discomfort? The question is, which discomfort do I want discipline today or regret tomorrow? Here's a practical way to do this. Reframe the pain. Most people see discomfort as suffering, but discomfort is data. It's a signal that you're pushing beyond your current limits. That burn in your muscles when you work out, that's growth. That mental resistance when you sit to write, that's creativity fighting its way out. If you reframe discomfort as proof you're on the right track, suddenly it's not your enemy, it's your compass. Let me ask you something. When in your life have you felt the most alive? Was it when you were sitting comfortably, doing nothing? Or was it when you were pushing yourself, sweating, nervous, unsure, but fully present? Exactly. Comfort numbs you. Discomfort wakes you up. Here's another practical tool. The 5-minute discomfort rule. Next time you face a task you're resisting, commit to just 5 minutes of discomfort. Tell yourself, I'll suffer for 5 minutes, then I can quit. What happens? 9 times out of 10, you won't quit. Because the hardest part isn't the work, it's breaking the comfort cycle. Once you cross that threshold, momentum takes over. Now, some of you are probably thinking, but what if I fail? What if I step into discomfort and I can't handle it? Let me challenge that. Haven't you survived every hard moment of your life so far? Haven't you pushed through discomfort before? Then why do you doubt yourself now? Failure isn't the enemy, comfort is. Because comfort guarantees failure through inaction. At least discomfort gives you a chance. Let me tell you about Maria. She was terrified of public speaking. Just the thought made her stomach twist. So every time she had an opportunity, she said no. She delayed, avoided, stayed comfortable. One day, she realized she was stuck in her career because she never spoke up. Comfort was stealing her future. So she tried the 5-minute discomfort rule. She signed up to speak in front of 10 people just 5 minutes. Her hands shook, her voice cracked, but she did it. That moment didn't kill her. It made her stronger. Over time, she kept stepping into discomfort, and guess what? Her fear shrank, her confidence grew. She broke the cycle not because she waited for courage, but because she embraced discomfort. So here's your challenge. Stop asking, how do I feel right now? Start asking, what will I feel tomorrow if I choose comfort again today? Because the truth is, discipline is just choosing your future self over your current self. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. Every act of comfort-driven procrastination is a vote against them. And if you're thinking, that sounds exhausting, do I have to suffer every day? Let me clarify. Discipline isn't about suffering endlessly. It's about building tolerance for short, controlled doses of discomfort. Just like lifting weights. At first, it burns. Over time, you adapt. The discomfort that once felt unbearable becomes your new normal. And then you grow again. That's how resilience is built. One last story. There was a study with 2 groups of people learning to play piano. One group practiced only when they felt like it. The other group practiced every day, even when it was uncomfortable. After 6 months, the first group made almost no progress. The second group, despite all the discomfort, became skilled players. Why? Because they understood that comfort doesn't build skills. Discomfort does. So I'll leave you with this. Your comfort zone is not where life happens. It's where life decays. If you want to escape procrastination, you must step into discomfort daily. Not because you hate yourself, but because you love your future. Take a moment. Reflect right now. Where in your life have you chosen comfort over growth? And what has it cost you? And more importantly, what would it give you if you flipped that choice? starting today. Because once you stop being seduced by comfort, procrastination loses one of its sharpest weapons. But we're not done. There's another layer to this cycle that keeps people trapped. And it's even more subtle. It's the illusion of being busy. And unless you see through it, you'll mistake procrastination for productivity. Let's expose one of the cleverest disguises procrastination wears: the illusion of being busy. Because here's the truth: procrastination doesn't always look like lying on the couch doing nothing. Sometimes it looks like working. Sometimes it looks like endless to-do lists, constant activity, non-stop busyness. And yet, nothing meaningful gets done. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You wake up, you've got big goals, and you think, today's the day I make real progress. But instead of tackling the hard, high-impact task that truly matters, you answer emails, you clean your desk, you research, you spend 2 hours organizing your calendar. You tell yourself you're being productive, but deep down, you know you're stalling. That's procrastination in disguise. Why do we fall for it? Because busyness feels safe. It gives us the dopamine of progress without the risk of failure. You can't fail at answering emails. You can't fail at highlighting notes or watching tutorials, but you can fail at writing the book. You can fail at making the sales call. You can fail at launching the business. And so, without realizing it, you choose the safety of busy work over the risk of meaningful work. Here's the brutal part. Busy work is seductive because it tricks your brain into thinking you're moving forward. At the end of the day, you feel exhausted. You worked hard, but when you look at the scoreboard, nothing has changed. No real progress, just movement in circles. It's like running on a treadmill. Lots of energy, zero distance traveled. Let me give you a story. I once worked with a guy named James. Brilliant, ambitious, sharp. He wanted to launch a podcast. For months, he was working on it. He researched the best microphones, the best editing software, the best hosting platforms. He designed cover art, tested soundproofing in his room, even built a spreadsheet comparing potential guests. Impressive, right? Except for one problem. He never recorded a single episode. Not one. He was busy, but he wasn't moving. His work was procrastination dressed in productivity's clothing. And that's the trap many of us fall into. We confuse movement with progress. We think because we're sweating, we must be winning. But sweat doesn't equal results. Results come only from doing the uncomfortable, risky, meaningful tasks, the ones that scare you. So how do you break this illusion? You use the principle of the one thing. Every day, ask yourself, if I could only get one thing done today, the one thing that would move my life forward, what would it be? And then you attack that first. Not the emails, not the cleaning, not the planning, the one thing. Here's a practical method. Make a list of all the tasks on your plate. Then divide them into 2 categories. Category A, tasks that create real progress. Category B, tasks that just keep you busy. Be ruthless. Research might feel like progress, but unless it directly leads to results, it's probably a stall. Once you've got the list, commit to finishing one category, a task, before you touch anything else. This is how you train yourself to prioritize progress over busyness. But let's be real, that's not easy. Because the moment you stare at the one thing, fear shows up. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. And fear is the real reason we hide behind busyness. Think about it. Why do you answer emails before writing that big proposal? Because emails are safe. No one will judge you for an email. But that proposal, that could fail. That could expose you. So you retreat into the comfort of busyness. Let me flip that on you. If fear is pointing at a task, that's a sign it matters. Fear is often a compass. If a task makes you nervous, it's probably the one that will actually change your life. So next time you catch yourself scrubbing the kitchen instead of working on your dream, ask, what am I avoiding right now? And why? Chances are, you're not avoiding the chore. You're avoiding the meaningful work that scares you. Another story. A woman named Lisa dreamed of writing a novel. She called herself a writer. But instead of writing chapters, she spent years reading writing blogs, buying notebooks, attending workshops, outlining her future book. She was always preparing, never creating. One day, someone asked her, "How many pages have you actually written?" She froze. The answer was 0. Her busyness was just procrastination in a costume. She wasn't a writer. She was a preparer. That realization hurt, but it also set her free. Because the moment she saw through the disguise, she started writing. one messy page at a time. So here's the challenge for you. Tomorrow morning, before you let the world steal your attention, ask, what's my one thing today? Write it down. Attack it before you do anything else. Even if it's ugly, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you fail. Because a failed attempt at meaningful work is 10 times more valuable than a perfectly executed day of busy work. And let's make it practical. I want you to try this for 7 days. Each morning, write down your one thing. Just one. Do it before noon. Protect it like your life depends on it. At the end of the week, look back. I promise you'll feel more progress in those 7 days than in the last month of busyness. Because here's the truth. Procrastination loves disguise. It loves hiding behind comfort, behind excuses, behind endless activity. But once you strip away the mask, you see it for what it is. Fear. And fear can be faced. Now, I'll leave you with a question. Are you willing to trade another year of your life for the illusion of being busy? Or are you ready to burn the disguise, to do the work that matters, and to finally step into the life you know you're capable of? Because if you are, then you're ready for the next level. You're ready to see how procrastination doesn't just waste your time, it rewires your brain. And unless you break that wiring, you'll keep falling back into the same loop. That's what we're diving into next. Here's something most people don't realize. Procrastination isn't just wasting time. It's rewiring your brain. Every time you delay, every time you choose the easy path, you're carving grooves into your mind that make delay easier the next time. Procrastination is not a single act, it's a pattern. And patterns, repeated enough times, become automatic. They become your default operating system. Think of your brain like a trail through a forest. The first time you delay, it's like stepping off the main road into the grass. Hard, awkward. But the more times you walk that same path, the grass flattens, the dirt hardens. Eventually, it becomes a trail, easy to walk. Now, contrast that with discipline. The first time you force yourself to take action, it feels like hacking through branches with a dull machete. Painful, exhausting. But if you keep walking that path, it too becomes easier. Until one day, it's the natural road you take. That's the neuroscience of procrastination. Every action is a vote for a pathway in your brain. And the path you vote for the most becomes the path of least resistance. That's why breaking the cycle is so hard. You're not just fighting habits, you're fighting brain architecture. Let me tell you a story. There was a student named Alex. Brilliant, but always late. He'd delay assignments, cram last minute, live in a fog of anxiety. He thought it was just bad habits, but when he looked closer, he realized he'd trained his brain to only work under panic. Panic became his trigger for productivity. So without deadlines, he did nothing. His brain was wired for crisis mode. Sound familiar? Maybe you're the same. Maybe you've trained yourself to only act when the pressure is unbearable. But here's the problem. Living in panic mode is not sustainable. It destroys your health, your creativity, your peace. And worse, it chains your potential to external pressure instead of internal discipline. So how do you rewire the brain? Through what I call microdisciplines. Tiny, repeatable actions that create new trails in your mental forest. You don't need to bulldoze the whole landscape overnight. You just need to start walking a new path daily. At first, it feels awkward, forced. But repetition makes it natural. That's how discipline becomes your default. Here's a practical exercise. Pick one small habit that you delay on every day. Something so small it feels almost laughable. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's drinking water first thing. Maybe it's writing one sentence. Do it at the same time, every day. No negotiation. What happens? Your brain starts associating identity with action. You're no longer someone who procrastinates. You're someone who does what they say. That identity shift rewires everything. But let's be honest. You'll resist. Your brain will scream, "This is stupid. This is too small. It won't matter." That's the old wiring talking. That's the procrastination pathway fighting for survival. Don't listen, because the small actions are not about the result, they're about building the new trail. Let me ask you something. Do you want to be the kind of person who only moves when the world is on fire? Or the kind of person who moves because it's who you are? Discipline is not about tasks. It's about identity. And identity comes from repetition. Another story. A man named Chris wanted to lose weight. For years, he procrastinated. He'd start diets, quit after a week. He'd buy gym memberships, never go. One day, He made a radical shift. Instead of promising to lose 50 pounds, he promised to put on his sneakers every morning. That's it. Some days he only walked around the block, but he kept the promise. Over months, his brain rewired. Sneakers meant action. Eventually, action meant workouts. 2 years later, he'd lost the weight. Not because of willpower, because of identity. Here's the secret. You don't break procrastination by fighting it head on. You break it by replacing it. Every time you choose action, even tiny action, you're voting for the disciplined version of yourself. And the more votes you cast, the stronger that identity becomes. Until procrastination no longer feels natural, discipline does. But here's where most people fail. They expect instant change. They think one productive day will undo years of delay. It won't. You didn't build your procrastination identity overnight. You won't rebuild discipline overnight either. But every day, you're casting votes. Every choice matters. So let's make this practical. I want you to do something right now. Think of one area where procrastination is killing your potential. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's your relationships. Now ask yourself, what's the smallest, simplest action I can take daily to build a new pathway? Write it down. Commit to it for 30 days. That's your rewire plan. Because here's the truth. Procrastination is not a life sentence. It's just a pattern. And patterns can be broken. Discipline is not a gift. It's a skill. And skills are built through practice. Let me leave you with this. 10 years from now, you will arrive somewhere. The only question is, will you arrive by default or by design? If you keep voting for procrastination, you'll arrive with regret, with wasted potential, with dreams buried under tomorrows. But if you start voting for discipline today, no matter how small, you'll arrive stronger, freer, and proud. And isn't that what you want? To finally trust yourself, to finally break the cycle, to finally live a life that feels like yours, not one stolen by delay. Then stop waiting for the perfect plan. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for tomorrow. Start casting votes today. Small, imperfect, consistent votes. That's the formula. That's the escape. That's how you break the cycle of procrastination. So, if this hit you, if you felt the truth in it, don't let this video be another piece of inspiration you watch and forget. Take one action, now. And if you want more tools, more strategies, more hard truths delivered straight to you, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started.